Welcome to this deep dive into one of the most chilling chapters in American criminal history. Today, we're exploring the life and crimes of Ted Bundy, a man whose charming facade hid a monstrous reality. Known as America's most notorious serial killer, Bundy confessed to at least 30 murders, though the true number may be higher. His story is a haunting reminder of how evil can lurk behind an ordinary appearance. We'll trace his path from a troubled childhood to his reign of terror across multiple states, his daring escapes, dramatic trials, and ultimate execution. Buckle up as we unravel the dark legacy of Ted Bundy. Early life. Ted Bundy was born Theodore Robert Cowell on November 24, 1946 in Burlington, Vermont, at a home for unwed mothers. His mother, Louise Cowell, initially raised him with her parents in Philadelphia, where he was led to believe his grandparents were his parents and his mother was his older sister. This deception was meant to shield the family from the social stigma of illegitimacy. Young Ted discovered the truth about his parentage in his teenage years, which fueled deep resentment toward his mother that lingered throughout his life. In 1950, Louise moved with Ted to Tacoma, Washington, where she met and married Johnny Bundy, a hospital cook. Johnny adopted Ted, giving him the surname he would carry into infamy. Despite the stable home, Ted felt disconnected from his stepfather and siblings. He described his childhood as lonely, marked by bullying at school due to his shyness and speech impediment. Early signs of disturbing behavior emerged, including shoplifting, peeping into windows, and even accounts of animal cruelty. Neighbors and family recalled him as intelligent but socially awkward, often fabricating stories to impress others. These formative years planted seeds of the manipulative persona he would later perfect. By high school, Bundy had been arrested for burglary and auto theft, though those records were expunged. His early life painted a picture of a boy grappling with identity and rejection, themes that psychologists later linked to his descent into violence. Education and relationships. After graduating high school in 1965, Bundy enrolled at the University of Puget Sound before transferring to the University of Washington to study Chinese. He dropped out briefly but returned to major in psychology, graduating with honors in 1972. Known for his charisma and good looks, he volunteered at a suicide hotline and worked on political campaigns, including for the Republican Party. He was accepted into law schools at the University of Utah and the University of Puget Sound, attending the former in 1974. Though his studies faltered as his crimes escalated, Bundy's relationships revealed his dual nature. In 1967, he met a wealthy classmate named Diane Edwards, whom he dated intensely. She ended the relationship in 1968, citing his immaturity, which devastated him. He later rekindled it briefly in 1973, only to dump her abruptly as revenge. This breakup is often cited as a trigger for his murders, as many victims resembled Edwards with long, dark hair parted in the middle. Meanwhile, in 1969, he began a long-term relationship with Elizabeth Klopfer, a divorced single mother. She described him as loving and a father figure to her daughter, but their bond was turbulent, marked by his disappearances and her growing suspicions. Klopfer even reported him to police multiple times as a potential suspect in the murders. Later, while imprisoned, Bundy married Carol Ann Boone during a courtroom spectacle in 1980. They had a daughter together before divorcing in 1986. These connections showcased Bundy's ability to maintain a veneer of normalcy while harboring dark secrets. The onset of crimes. No one knows exactly when Ted Bundy's killing spree began, but some speculate it could have started in his teenage years or early 20s. Unconfirmed cases include the disappearance of 8-year-old Anne Marie Burr in 1961 and other young women in the late 60s. However, his confirmed murders ramped up in 1974, coinciding with personal setbacks like the end of his relationship with Edwards and struggles in law school. Bundy's modus operandi was calculated and deceptive. He often approached women in public places, feigning injury with a fake cast or sling to elicit sympathy and help. Posing as an authority figure like a police officer or firefighter, he'd lure them to his Volkswagen Beetle, which had the passenger seat removed for easier restraint. Once isolated, he'd bludgeon them unconscious with a crowbar, handcuff them, and drive to remote areas for rape and strangulation. Horrifyingly, he admitted to revisiting bodies for necrophilic acts and sometimes decapitating victims, keeping heads as trophies. He targeted young, attractive college-aged women, exploiting their trust in his clean-cut appearance. This charm allowed him to evade suspicion for years as he blended seamlessly into society. The killing spree in Washington and Utah. 1974 marked the beginning of Bundy's documented terror in the Pacific Northwest. On January 4th, he broke into the basement apartment of University of Washington student Karen Sparks, bludgeoning and sexually assaulting her. She survived but with severe brain damage. A month later, on February 1st, he abducted Linda Ann Healy from her room, her skull later found on Taylor Mountain. Disappearances continued. Donna Gail Manson in March, Susan Elaine Rancourt in April, Roberta Kathleen Parks in May, Brenda Carol Ball in June, and Jorgen Hawkins later that month. The boldness peaked on July 14th at Lake Sammamish State Park, where he abducted Janice Ann Ott and Denise Marie Naslund in broad daylight, again using the fake injury ploy. Witnesses described a handsome man named Ted in a white tennis outfit, driving a tan Volkswagen. Remains of several victims were discovered in September near Issaquah, confirming a serial killer at work. In August, Bundy relocated to Salt Lake City for law school, extending his crimes to Utah, Idaho, and Colorado. On October 2nd, Nancy Wilcox vanished, Melissa Ann Smith on the 18th, Laura Ann Aim on the 31st. On November 8th, he attempted to kidnap Carol Da Ranch from a mall, posing as a cop, but she escaped. That same night, Deborah Jean Kent disappeared nearby. In 1975, victims included Karen Eileen Campbell in January, Julie Lyle Cunningham in March, Denise Lynn Oliverson in April, Lynette Dawn Culver in May, and Susan Curtis in June. Bundy's luck ran out on August 16th when a Utah highway patrolman stopped him for suspicious driving, finding burglary tools, handcuffs, and a ski mask in his car. He was arrested for evasion but soon linked to the Da Ranch attempt. Escapes and Florida murders. After conviction for the Da Ranch kidnapping in 1976, Bundy faced murder charges in Colorado. Extradited to Aspen, he represented himself, gaining access to the courthouse library. On June 7, 1977, he jumped from a second-floor window and fled into the mountains, surviving on stolen food for 6 days before recapture. Undeterred, he escaped again on December 30th from Garfield County Jail by starving himself to fit through a ceiling hole, assuming a guard's identity to flee. He made his way to Florida, arriving in Tallahassee in early 1978. There, on January 15th, he invaded the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University, bludgeoning and strangling Margaret Elizabeth Bowman and Lisa Janet Levy to death, and severely injuring Karen Chandler and Kathy Kleiner. He then attacked Cheryl Thomas in a nearby duplex, but she survived. On February 9th, he abducted 12-year-old Kimberly Diane Leach from her school in Lake City, raping and murdering her before dumping her body under a shed. These crimes shocked the nation, as Bundy's rampage seemed unstoppable. Capture and trials. Bundy's final capture came on February 15, 1978 in Pensacola, Florida. Stopped for driving a stolen orange Volkswagen with no lights, he resisted arrest, giving false names before being identified. Bite marks on Levy's body matched his teeth, providing damning evidence. His trials were media circuses. The first, for the Chi Omega murders, began in June 1979 in Miami. Bundy acted as his own attorney, turning the courtroom into a stage with dramatic outbursts. Forensic dentist Richard Suverin testified that the bite marks were a unique match to Bundy's overbite. On July 24th, he was convicted of 2 murders and 3 attempted murders, receiving death sentences a week later. The second trial for Leach's murder started in January 1980 in Orlando. Again representing himself, Bundy proposed to Carol Ann Boone during questioning, making their marriage official under Florida law. He was convicted on February 7th and sentenced to death 3 days later. Appeals delayed his execution for nearly a decade, during which he toyed with investigators. Confessions and execution. As execution loomed, Bundy began confessing in 1989 to stall for time. He admitted to 30 murders across 7 states, providing details on unsolved cases, including locations of remains. He spoke of his crimes in third person, blaming pornography and a malignant entity within him. These interviews offered glimpses into his psyche, revealing a narcissist who viewed victims as objects. On January 24, 1989, at Florida State Prison in Stark, Bundy was executed in the electric chair at age 42. Crowds outside cheered, chanting, "Burn, Bundy, burn." His last words were apologies to his family. His ashes were scattered in Washington's Cascade Mountains, near where he dumped many bodies. Legacy and impact. Ted Bundy's case transformed criminal profiling and public awareness of serial killers. It highlighted how charm can mask psychopathy, influencing FBI behavioral analysis units. His story inspired books, films, and documentaries, from The Deliberate Stranger to Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile. Feminists critiqued media portrayals that glamorized him, sparking discussions on misogyny and violence against women. Bundy's legacy endures as a cautionary tale, reminding us that monsters often wear human faces. His crimes left families shattered, communities scarred, and a nation questioning how such evil evaded detection for so long. Conclusion. Ted Bundy's story is a stark exploration of human darkness, from his deceptive charm to his brutal acts. While he met justice, the pain he inflicted lingers, Thank you for joining this examination of America's most notorious serial killer. If this video intrigued you, like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Stay safe out there.